Loading. Mars worldwide.
Why?
Mars worldwide.
Why?
What if I told you that the future was one of exploring different planets?
Knowing how much humans have explored in the past should tell you that we will continue to explore in the future.
And despite constant feats of the past, in our lifetime we will see the first man or woman land on Mars.
And who will that person be? Possibly you! We're here to tell you why space travel to Mars is such a hot topic in today's day and age. And more importantly, we're actually here to sell you on it.
Because in 2027, we all want you to join us on Mars Worldwide and come with us for a great flight through space.
So come aboard and let's take a ride.
We want to introduce our first speaker, and that is T-Bone. Please give a round of applause.
We choose to go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard. Now that great quote came from JFK. This quote explains what drives us to explore. JFK knew exploration through space could lead to future discoveries. So I did some research on what drives us, what is at the core, what encourages us to explore into the realm of the unknown. I came across that we desire, because we're very curious, we want to know if we can survive, spread humanity out into outer space. We are very competitive with each other, with other countries, and our capability of doing this. And also, when we went to Mars, we learned what we could do on Mars. Now, we explore because more than 100,000 years ago, we all came from Africa. We all set out to all the different continents, looking for new land, beautiful land that we could call home. This urge to spread out and find new places to live has never left us. It's in our DNA. 3 years ago, Buzz Aldrin, the man who walked on the moon, he said in an interview to Tech Insider that Kennedy actually originally wanted to go to Mars in the first place. It wasn't the moon. He set his goals high. Now, NASA had to explain to him that they couldn't do that just yet, but he still wanted to go to Mars. What, Mitch?
Why did Kennedy think we could go to Mars if we didn't have the technology?
Well, he was very passionate about it. He really wanted to get out and explore.
Just sounds like he was a little...
He might have been, but I really doubt it. He was a smart guy.
Okay.
Well, now, at the Mars Summit in 2015, a NASA administrator named Charlie Bolden explained why going to Mars would be great for humanity. He said, there's so much we could learn from going to outer space. We know how to live there. We might eventually learn how to live on Mars. So, the history of us competing in outer space starts back in the 1950s and 1960s with the USSR. They were the first ones to put out a probe and animals and even people into outer space and return them. So, from the Council of Foreign Relations, they said because of the advancement of the Soviet space program, Eisenhower and Congress wanted to start NASA and two aiding functions to help in this quest to go out into space.
Yeah, USA, baby, let's go.
Now, this eventually led to the moon landing. Okay, we were very successful, and we won the space race because of it. Now, landing on the moon, we learned about how we could use this to go to Mars. So, the flight to the moon was long. It took over a week to get there. We left on July 16th. We got there at July 19th in lunar orbit. Didn't set down to the 21st. And then we had to go back, returning on the 24th. Going to Mars is going to be much longer than that. Also, the atmosphere on Mars, according to Air and Space Magazine, the atmosphere on Mars is in between the moon, who is very low density, and Earth, the air pressure here. Now, with this low amount of thickness, it would be equivalent to a 130,000 foot mountain on Earth. That's how less thick the air would be. There would not be as much air resistance for a parachute to open up. So NASA is still working on how to safely get a spaceship full of people there. So hopefully we do, but looking back from the past, we know that our drive to explore and the fact that we compete with each other will help us get to Mars. All right? That's my portion of the speech. Now we're sending it to Maddie G.
Now let's discuss, why aren't we still exploring that universe, the unknown? We can ramble on for days discussing the multitude of reasons why we haven't launched a spacecraft onto Mars yet. But let's break it down a little. For starters, there's a lack of general interest. To put things into perspective, according to outerspaces.com, orbit missions cost roughly $70 million, and the movie Gravity cost $100 million. Yes?
Who's the lead actor in Gravity? I haven't seen it.
Actress Sandra Bullock,
Okay.
great film. But if our costs towards creating movies that are about space aren't being put to create general interest, we are wasting our resources and our money that could be going to help promote NASA's growth. Astronaut Scott Kelly blames the lack of president funding, for why we haven't been able to make as many advancements in NASA as we would hope to. In 2016, the funding for NASA was roughly $19.3 billion. And I know you all may be thinking, that's a lot of money. But in reality, compared to the amount of money in the federal budget, that's not a lot. During the years of Apollo, we peaked around 5.5% of federal budget, and in the late 1970s, we dropped down to 1%. We now hang around 0.5% of the federal budget going toward NASA. That's minuscule. People may believe it's so risky to spend so much money to send people to Mars, and it'll leave our NASA program, which already has limited resources, with even less resources and money. People may also say there are other alternatives, such as colonizing the moon and making space-based solar power. Yes, these alternatives are very proactive and they are useful. But think about landing on Mars, colonizing Mars. That's life-changing. There could be a new life on a different planet. People believe we shouldn't colonize Mars for these reasons: lack of funding, and it's not worth it. But it is. Our issue is logistics. As T-Bone originally said, it is a far planet, and if we made the trip to Mars, worked on Mars, and sent our astronauts back, it would take over a year, according to deathcosmos.com. There's another option. We make it a one-way trip. But is this option really logical? With the isolation mixed with the little gravity on Mars, this could have a major effect on the mental and physical state of our astronauts, putting their lives in jeopardy. If we do decide to land on Mars, 3 things we should consider. Planting a US flag on Mars is not a good idea. According to Death Cosmos, Mars is a sanctuary where we should not be putting our nationalistic propaganda on it. We should be using it for, life. If we do send our astronauts to Mars and we safely return them, we have to be worried about cross-contaminating. Cross-contaminating particles and atoms from Mars and Earth could have major effects that are detrimental to life on both planets. And this should not be the backup plan to Earth. This should be in addition to it. I'm going to give it to Mitch now.
So, not applause yet. I'm going to ask you guys, why now? With all those problems that's going on with NASA and going on with the budget, why are people talking about going to Mars? What changed? And the most pressing question that you guys are all thinking, how are you going to join Mars Worldwide if we don't have the money? Well, that comes down to one person. The man, the myth, the legend, you guys all know him. And most importantly, he is my man crush Monday, Elon Musk. Now, I know what you're thinking. He's a very attractive guy. He's also smart. He was born in South Africa in 1971. A true American capitalist at heart, though, because he said that America is where great things happen. He made his fortune after dropping out of Stanford after 2 days. And then after those 2 days, he created a little thing called PayPal. I know you guys have all heard of it. He sold it and became a multimillionaire. And he was called the genius of his generation. Well, he hasn't stopped. He created Tesla. He created many other inventions. Even at one point, he created a flamethrower with a company called the Boring Company, which doesn't make much sense to me. And then also, in Elon's biography, it will tell you that he even had an advisory role in one of the greatest things that happened to this country. Donald Trump. I'm kidding. But he did have one of the greatest presidential runs of all time, which was helped by Elon Musk. Now, I'm not here to talk about this big hunk of a man the whole time. I'm here to talk about what he did. He created the turning point in the space industry, a little thing called SpaceX. SpaceX is a private company, and it redefined the space industry. But it did start at humble beginnings. They started by launching small satellites, which is a small but profitable business. And they gained notoriety from trying things very quickly and failing very often. A little bit like my social life. But they soon realized that big rockets had more profit. And since more profit, they decided to focus on that. And since they did focus on that, they did get a backing from NASA in 2008. And in 2008, they got a backing because they were going to resupply the International Space Station in space. And because of this, they were able to practice and test and become better in everything that they do. And Air and Space, Smithsonian's article, Is Space Changing the Rocket Equation? Elon Musk is quoted by saying, as the case with every other technology, our performance will increase and our prices will decrease over time with practice. So in 2015, because of that practice, they were able to do something never done before. They were able to successfully land a rocket back onto Earth. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why did they pick such a small place to land it, and why is it in the middle of the ocean? Don't have those answers for you. But it comes down to it makes the rocket reusable. So if the rocket's reusable, the price is going to go down even further. They're going to get more and more chances to practice. And they're going to get better and get better. And Forbes magazine article, 5 Existential Challenges Facing Elon Musk's SpaceX, tells us that even in a small yet competitive market, SpaceX has come to dominate that market by offering cut-rate prices, dropping the price even more, becoming even better. Now, what has ever stopped SpaceX? Nothing. And now, they turn their gaze upon Mars. And that's where we come in. So, since they created a rocket that we all will be riding called the Falcon. And the Falcon is bigger and stronger than any rocket ever made. Next slide. Bigger and stronger than any rocket ever made before. And it even successfully landed one of Elon Musk's own Teslas and put it into orbit of the Earth. And it's still there right now. There's actually a live stream you can watch. And it's a space guy, like a mannequin, strapped in to the Tesla. And he's just riding around Earth. And it's a live stream. So if you want to watch it, you can. New York Times article, Falcon Heavy in a Roar of Thunder, actually quotes Elon when he said, it's kind of silly and fun, but silly and fun things are important. Don't let him fool you. SpaceX is gaining confidence. And people in the past, I know you guys are thinking, when are we going to Mars? People in the past thought, hey, if we get a spaceship on Mars in 2050, that would be successful. And then NASA said that they could do it in 2040. Then NASA said if we focused on it, we could do it in 2035. However, in Stephen Patrick's TED Talk, your kids might live on Mars. Here's how they'll survive. He tells us that he believes with the help of SpaceX, we will be on Mars by 2027. Grab my phone.